Welcome to Finding Your Style, a new series we've put together to help you navigate the seemingly endless ocean of fashion advice online. In each episode, we'll look at a specific topic and help you utilize proportion, color, weight, fabric, and style to find your ideal garments. Today, we're going to keep things really simple and we're going to try and get some clarity over denim production and how to care for your jeans. This might initially seem like a really simple topic, but if you go online, you're going to see there's a lot of information everywhere and a lot of it is misinformation. We've been dealing with jeans for 30 years, longer than I've been alive. This is an industry we know very well, so hopefully we'll be able to guide you in the right direction. When you ask someone about Selvedge, it's very common to hear like a half explanation, someone just saying it's better or it comes from Japan. A lot of these things may be half true, but we're going to go in a little bit more depth and explain actually what Selvedge denim is. So the easiest way to identify a Selvedge jean, and the way a lot of people will see it, is the Selvedge ID on the side here. You'll see that on the inside of your jeans. When people turn it up, it's on the outer seam. It's identified by that piece of denim in between there and then two white strips, and usually has a red or a pink line up the top. So that red line that you see on Selvedge jean, it's usually red, it could be rainbow, only does it in a few different colors to differentiate different fabrics, but it's usually going to be red. That initially comes from Levi's. Almost 100 years ago, they started exclusively using cone mills fabric. So in 1915, they picked up cone mills. In 1922, they signed a deal to exclusively use cone mills fabric. The actual red line wasn't introduced until 1927, and it was a way for the factory to distinguish between Levi's denim and just regular denim they were making at cone mills. So as much as you may like the way the Selvedge ID looks, I love it. I think it looks so much cleaner and it's such a nice edge to have and turn down. It's also nice to show off your Selvedge jeans. It actually is just how the fabric was always made. It's just a byproduct of a shuttle loom. A lot of jeans now are made with projectile looms. Original jeans and the way denim was initially made was using a shuttle loom. A shuttle is one piece of wood. I think we have some here somewhere. There we go. So this is a shuttle. So the cotton would be in here and it would go back and forth along a loom. Original looms were only 29 inches, so they're really not very long at all. So one loom would make one pair of jeans, whereas new ones are absolutely enormous. Now some Selvedge looms are longer, but initially they were 29 inches wide. So you'd have this going back and forth and it would be one continuous piece. And as it wraps around the edge, it creates a self-edge. You'll see on some jeans, you might think it's an imperfection or something wrong with them, but there'll be this tiny little bit here, and it's just where they've run out of thread and they retie it and start again. So it's one continuous piece, so it's strong, it's a lot more robust. So there are many advantages to using the old school method of a shuttle loom over a projectile loom. A projectile loom is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically a gun of thread on either side shooting in, but it has to be a fine thread, it has to be very calculated, and you don't really have much control or the ability to experiment with that thread. If you pick up a Selvedge jean, it will probably feel different to start with. It's not the fact that it's Selvedge, it's the fact that you can experiment a lot more on a shuttle loom. If you pick up a really neppy or a really slubby jean, because of the way it's done and because of how slow it is, you can do it a lot looser and use thicker or kind of imperfect threads that allow you to have such a textured jean. So one of the most discussed and debated topics when talking about high-end denim or Selvedge denim is fading. Everyone has a different view of what a good fade is and how to achieve that fade. So some people want really dramatic fades and some people want kind of a more washed out all over fade. A lot of what you'll hear is people saying that Selvedge denim creates a better fade or it's easier to get better fades with Selvedge denim. As a rule of thumb, that is probably true, but it's not necessarily the fact that the jean is made on a shuttle loom that means it fades better. There will be some characteristics in the way that the jean is made that change the fade, but it's all about that indigo dyeing process. Most Selvedge jeans, not all, but most Selvedge jeans and pretty much everyone you're going to find from Japan will be rope dyed. So rope dyeing is a process that is a little bit slower and it's a bit longer, but it allows for a much more contrasty or dramatic fade. It is a way of dyeing a yarn. So they dip it into some indigo and then take it out. So different manufacturers will do it in different ways, and that will allow jeans to either fade quicker or fade slower or fade with more or less contrast. So it never fully penetrates and goes deep into that yarn itself. So imagine the indigo sits at the top. So every time you move or every time you brush against something or every time your jeans crease and rub something, it will dislodge a bit of that indigo. So that's why once you wash your jeans, you lose so much of that kind of dark indigo, and you get that beautiful blue undertone that comes out. So you'll hear a lot of people talk about no wash or not washing their jeans, or finding different ways to wash their jeans that don't involve chucking them in a washing machine. It is all about getting a more contrasty fade. I've got a pair of jeans here that have definitely been washed a couple of times, but are much more on the no wash sort of end. So you can see what we call it the whiskering at the front here. That is just where the jeans kind of crunch up and rub against things in the day-to-day life around the crotch. And then you have the same thing on the back. This one isn't so much because it's not really a slim jean. This happens more with a slim jean, but you can see it. This is called honeycombing. So as a jean crunches behind the knee, it rubs against itself, and that's where you get this honeycombing effect. It's just friction. It's points of contact where the indigo is brushed off or rubbed off. That's where lighter parts of the warp, where the indigo hasn't penetrated, comes through. So we've definitely over the last few years gone back to an idea of washing your jeans more regularly. The way this actually affects the fades is you get a much more uniform fade. It's a much lighter blue throughout the jean, and you don't get the contrast so much between those light parts and those indigo parts. So you get a lot more of that used look rather than that high contrast you get from not washing. So one of the biggest problems with not washing your jeans is, although they look fantastic and some of those fades can be beautiful, the kind of gunk and bacteria and grit that kind of focuses around those high points of friction means that that jean will deteriorate much quicker. You'll get blowouts, you'll get rips, and they will have to be repaired. So for a lot of people, they actually like that part of the process. Patching up your jeans and doing repairs adds to the character of the jean, it adds to the whole story. All your repairs or fades are meant to be very personal, so it just elevates that a little bit more. So some people aren't bothered by that at all. So washing your jeans is something that can be a little bit difficult or daunting to start with, but it is really easy. I don't think you should be overly precious about your jeans, but there are some kind of hard and fast rules that make it a lot easier to not worry. The first thing I'd say straight away is don't do it too hot. When these jeans are made, they can either come raw off the shelf or they can come rinsed or sanforized. A lot of the time you're going to be buying rinsed jeans and they haven't been washed at over kind of 30 to 40 degrees. So all of the shrink that you should expect to have is already out of them. So if you then wash hotter than that, they're going to shrink a little bit more, or they'll warp, or they'll look a little bit wrong. So my recommendation is 20 degrees or 30 degrees. You don't really even need to go hotter than that with modern detergent anyway, and it just ensures that there won't be any more shrinkage or change in the shape of them. So the best thing to do is turn them inside out, button them up, fold them, put them at the bottom of the machine, and one of the other main things to stop that agitation is turn the spin off. If your machine can't turn the spin off, mine can't, I just turn it on a delicate cycle and they've been absolutely fine. Once you pull your jeans out, they haven't been spun, so they're going to be absolutely soaking wet. So make sure there's nothing white in the path of you running to your bathroom or your shower or something and hanging them up. Hang drying is the best way. So I loosen mine out a little bit so they're not too crinkled, so they dry a little bit cleaner, but just hang dry them, let them dry. It usually only takes a couple of days, but don't spin them, don't put them in a tumble dry, just let them dry naturally. If you do make a mistake and you do it too hot or something goes wrong with your jeans, it's not the end of the world. Obviously it's not perfect, but there are things you can do. The thing that I would do is a bit heavy-handed, but I would wet them again and just start stretching them out. Get them back to a shape that looks familiar. Your jeans will twist, they will change shape when you wash them, but you'll start to know if you've gone a little bit too far. Another option is dry cleaning. It's not the perfect way to clean your jeans, but it does work. It gets rid of that pong and kind of the bacteria that's in there that creates that pong. It also means that you will hold on to the indigo for a little bit longer. So the guys who are part of the No Wash Club do sometimes dry clean their jeans. I personally think that jeans, the fades are part of the journey in the life of the jean. I think it's something that people should embrace and look forward to in their jeans, but there are ways to avoid it, but don't put your jeans in the freezer. That was a trend that started a couple of years ago for people who really didn't want to wash their jeans, and the idea was that as soon as you put them in, the cold freezes and kills that bacteria. It's not the case. As soon as they thaw out, they're alive again. So it does absolutely nothing apart from making your freezer really dirty. So armed with the knowledge of production and care, you're ready to jump a little bit further down the denim rabbit hole. Next time, we'll be looking at a bit more about the weights and fading and washes and a little bit more depth, and then how to style those jeans once you've found them.